Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously, being the poetry discussion playlist. Number two, being the Emily Dickinson playlist. The poetry discussion playlist itself now nearing the 230 video mark, and the Emily Dickinson playlist nearing the 60 video mark, I believe, maybe slightly over by this point in time. If you enjoy what I do here, hitting the like button really does me a lot of good on the channel. It tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, and if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel. Poetry every Mondays, at least. There are novel read-alongs. There are short stories on the channel. So consider hitting the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. And there is a link to my personal channel to be found in the description below. If you want to hear me talk about philosophy, movies, general YouTubery, things like that, go over there and hit the subscribe button there as well. Let's get into it. We have a poem from Emily Dickinson here, which I will go into sort of at length later, that's backwards from what we normally get. But let's get into it. It's called A Bird Came Down the Walk. A bird came down the walk he did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sideways to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head, like one in danger. Cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rowed him softer home. Then oars divide the ocean to silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap splashless as they swim. So, one of the things that I have brought up several times recently with Emily Dickinson is the idea of a found poem. Now, a found poem just means a writer, a poet, who is taking a nonfiction event and memorializing it in poetry. Now, maybe neither here nor there. Who really cares how many of our poems that we love actually happened? Who cares how many of the poems that we love took place in the real world? We're not reading them for their nonfiction qualities. We are reading them for the fact that they are transcendent of their moment in time. They are transcendent of what it is that actually happened. Here, however, so the reason that I bring that up with Emily Dickinson is because of the wild, wild places that Emily Dickinson is capable of taking us. Emily Dickinson's poetry can do pretty much anything. There is no, when you think of all of the Emily Dickinson poems that you've read, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. Who thinks of that? Who thinks of that? Um, there are so many strange places the depths of Emily Dickinson explores that the idea of a bird landing on the sidewalk in front of her and she throws a crumb to the bird and the bird flies away. Well, it's kind of a shame to get that poem from a mind as extraordinary as Emily Dickinson, isn't it? Isn't it? Kind of. But only kind of. Because, look, the same woman who wrote If You Were Coming in the Fall, basically a poem about throwing away time, writes a poem about a bird landing on the sidewalk. The same woman who wrote I Died for Beauty, here is writing a poem about a birdie landing on the concrete and being scared away when you try to feed it. How dumb, isn't it? Well, no. Because who in their right mind would have described the bird flying away like this? And he unrolled his feathers and rode him softer home than oars divide the ocean to silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap splashless as they swim. Well, here's the thing. I said earlier this poem's backwards. It's a little bit backwards. And here's what I mean. This is a poem about nature being both the beauty and the beast. But notice, even how I set that up, the beauty and the beast. Normally, there's no shortage of this type of poem, the type of poem that sets out, type of poem, type of short story, type of novel, very prevalent novels in the late 1800s, early 1900s about this sort of thing, where we would get the beauty of nature set up, but then we're shown all of the predators lurking in the dark shadows. All of these types of things, right? That's normally how these poems are set up, how these short stories, how these novels are run. They are run from the beauty we set up. How beautiful nature is, how wonderful and mystical nature is. We set up how gorgeous the sunset really is. And then we show the shadows, where the same animals who prowl during the day hunt during the night, hunt during the day. They'll rip something open right there on the savannah and spill its guts, eat half of it, and walk off, letting the hyenas finish the rest, right? But we set up that beautiful picture first. Emily Dickinson doesn't care. Emily Dickinson's willing to start off. A bird came down the walk. He didn't know I saw him. But I saw him bite an angleworm in halves. And he just swallowed the little prick. Just swallowed him. We're starting here with the beast. And then we set up the beauty. But we're starting with that very coarse, very matter of fact, very sort of, more than anything, rough and tumble world of the birds and the worms. We set that up first. Why? Why? And why make that observation? Why make the observation that this is backwards? Because most writers are trying to lure you. So it's a bit of seduction. That's what it is. It's a little taste of seduction. There is a phrase that I've mentioned. There's an old phrase from, who was it? Marilyn Monroe, at least purportedly, that I've mentioned a million times on the channel. Marilyn Monroe used to say, if you can make a girl laugh, you can make her do anything. It's about letting the guard down. If you can make, and I have often said that a reader is the same way. If you can make a reader laugh, you can make that reader feel anything. That reader has let their guard down, and they are welcoming you whole hog into their mind space. And Emily Dickinson here, she's not for foreplay. Emily Dickinson doesn't care. She's going to show you the ugly and then make sure you know how beautiful it is. It's backwards. Normally, we lure a reader into a sense of complacency with beauty. And then we show them, you know what this really is, right? I mean, you know what's really going on here, right? That bird is a predator, cold-hearted. That beautiful bird snaps things in halves and swallows them whole. Well, in halves. That's normally the course of action for a writer. Emily Dickinson's taking it completely backwards because she has the power to do that. Emily Dickinson is taking this completely backwards because why not? This is... I kind of hate the term avant-garde because to really accept the idea of guard, you are accepting authority. Whereas the real avant-garde, the real individuals, the real creative types, do not recognize a guard in general. Leonardo came along, and so there's a famous story that Verrocchio was his teacher. And back in the day, they would have art schools that worked off commission. And a famous guy would say, hey, I really want a picture of the Assumption of Mary. And the whole art studio would kind of, the lead teacher would kind of paint something and say, yeah, why don't you finish this angel? I need this angel finished. And old Zach would finish this angel, and I need the dog. The dog has to be finished. I have no idea what accent that is, but Gregory would finish the dog. Well, there was an angel that needed to be finished, and Leonardo, being Leonardo, made his own types of paints. And I don't say made his own paint. Everybody made their own paint. Leonardo decided, I'm going to risk it on a commission for my teacher, the master. I'm going to risk it, make my own type of paint, perform my own type of painting, and I'm kind of not going to finish it. So Verrocchio assigns him this angel, and he does just a masterful bang-up job and retires Verrocchio. So this is an old cliche from that time with artists where their student would retire the master. Leonardo was so good, was so original, that Verrocchio, upon accepting this commission and saying, hey, Leo, finish that angel for me. And he did. And Verrocchio looked at it and said, I don't know what else to do now. You've won. I retire. That is what avant-garde really is. If there is a real avant-garde, it's the not accepting the guard. Emily Dickinson here clearly does not accept the guard. Emily Dickinson here is clearly living in her own world. Emily Dickinson here is clearly setting up her own rules. There are no rules for Emily Dickinson. Here, I think this poem is in the 300s of 1,775 chronologically ordered poems. So we do still have some conventions. Saw rhymes with raw. Grass rhymes with pass. We have some conventions. Later on, Emily Dickinson would accept slant rhymes. And after that, Emily Dickinson just sort of said, screw it. I'm getting the ideas out, and I'm going to use the right words, not the words that fit some little idea of a jigsaw puzzle that has to rhyme and fit together and be pretty and... Ugh. Emily Dickinson does away with all of it. But here we have that sort of middle ground, accepting some rules, some norms, but I would argue still no guard. That is all I have for this video. If you enjoy what I do here, hitting the like button helps me out here on the channel. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about. If you want to hear me talk about other things, there is a link to my personal channel to be found in the description below. Head over there. And I drop multiple videos a week, poetry, every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.